When did the nice guy turn out to be the worst person you ever met? Before my mom started seeing a horrendous man named Corey, I felt like I could trust her as my parent. The entire upstairs floor of the house was mine, and it gave me a nice sense of privacy. But then Corey came along, and from day one, he started taking over everything. At first, he would walk into the attic unannounced and take measurements of my room. I thought maybe he was going to build me a new bed or something, but then he started ordering huge packages and storing them in my room. Every time I asked my mom why he was doing all that, she tried to sway away from the question and make conversation about something else. Well, it wasn't until one day I came home from school and heard awful noises coming from upstairs. I could tell my mom and Corey were getting at it, and my heart sunk when I realized it must be taking place on my bed. So I ran upstairs, but once I got to the staircase, I saw all of my belongings were sprawled out on the floor. I felt angrier than ever, and as much as I didn't want to walk in on them doing their due, the adrenaline got to me and I banged on the door demanding them to open up. I was sobbing at that point, and a few minutes later, the door cracked open and Carrie popped his head out. "Don't you know how to mind your own business when adults are doing grown things?" he said, and I lost my patience. "Why is all my stuff downstairs?" I yelled, and he just shook his head and slammed the door in my face. "Ask me later, kid," he yelled. I tried to twist the knob, but the door was locked and there was nothing that I could do. I ended up going for a 2-hour walk to clear my head, and when I came home, the house was empty. At this point, I ran upstairs and the attic was unlocked, but when I opened the door, it was a room I did not recognize. It had been turned into a dungeon for them to have their fun time, and they had all sorts of creepy devices and sticks with feathers on them. I literally broke to my knees and hit the floor crying because I could not believe my mom would let a man do this to the both of us. Once my mom came home later that day, Corey wasn't with her yet. I could tell she was avoiding me. I followed her and demanded she tell me what happened to my room, and as she sat down on her bed, I could see she had been crying. She suddenly grabbed my hands and pulled me on the bed next to her. "You need to help me get away from him. He forced me to do this," and my heart hurt for her. We ended up having a 2-hour-long discussion, and she told me she got with him because he seemed like a nice enough guy, and he had good money that he enticed her with. But she didn't realize that his entire plan was to pimp her out. It wasn't until he tore my room up while I was at school and pulled her up there that she realized the type of man he was. I didn't know what to do at that point, but I gave my mom a long hug before running upstairs and tearing the whole room apart. I called the locksmith to change the lock to the front door, and within 3 hours, the attic was bare, and all of Corey's creepy stuff was gone. I came back into my mom's room to tell her we should be safe, and she was just sitting on the edge of her bed with a 30-yard stare plastered on her face. She then told me she was getting her own version of revenge, and when she flipped her phone to show me, I immediately recognized Corey's Tesla listed as sold. I was confused, but my mom went on to explain that she'd done some digging and found out that he got the car through some illegal deal. It wasn't really registered in his name, so he had no way to prove it was his. So earlier that night, she grabbed the car keys and listed it online. It sold within hours, and someone would be there to pick it up in the morning. After that whole fiasco was over with, and my mom cashed in on 6 figures, I could tell she was proud of herself for getting her revenge on a man. When Corey came back around and stood at our house yelling for hours on end that day, I threatened him with the cops, and he ran away screaming and cursing like a little kid. I ended up calling them anyways, and weeks later, I found out he was arrested for running creepy stuff on the black market.